we are actually doing a live podcast on stage right here with all of you, and it's called the Realest Real Talk. So we have Ali Stroker, Tiff McPherson, and fellow Aerie role models Lana Condor and Jenna Kutcher all sat down for a conversation on love, success, loss, and living. So, Jess Wiener, a dear friend of mine and a cultural expert, focused on the intersection of business, social change, that was easy for me to say, inclusivity, will be moderating the discussion. Not only is Jess the CEO of Talk to Jess and an advisor to Fortune 500 companies to help them better reflect the people in their media, marketing, advertising, and workforce, but she is also a proud Aerie advisor. So let's welcome the ladies to the stage. Love the t-shirt.
Can't wait for that baby to be born. How are you, everybody? I mean, look at this panel, y'all. Hi, ladies.
Hello.
Well, I am so happy to be here, and as Iskra mentioned, our goal, hey back there, our goal is to have the Realest Real Talk, which is tough because we always dig a little deeper in our Aerie Real Talks. But this is, I'm launching a podcast and video series called We're All Gonna Die Anyway.
It's amazing. I was just on it. It's really good.
Which is true, but actually to what Iskra just said, it is like the love letter to the urgency of living and the joy of living a life that lights you up. And I couldn't think of 4 better women and role models and inspirations, especially on International Women's Day, to have this conversation with. So I like to start in the way, way back. And I want to talk about childhood you. So if you could, I'm going to start with Lana. I'm going to come and end with you, Tiff. Top of mind, first things that come to your head, Lana as little Lana. 3 words that describe little Lana.
Oh, no. Okay, 3 words that describe little Lana. Appetite. Because, like, I remember in school, I would always get detention. I had like 18 detentions because I would shove mozzarella sticks into my mouth during when we were changing classrooms because I was so hungry. And so I would sit in I'd put my head in like the locker and then just eat as many mozzarella sticks. So appetite.
Oh my.
Vision, because I had poor vision. Like I'm not talking about like the That's a Raven vision. I'm talking about like my general eyesight's not great. So, and that's like as a child, that's when I learned like I should use contacts. And then I should say an inspiring one.
I like where this is heading. Keep going.
Well, I said loquacious to you earlier
yes.
because I believe that means talkative.
Yes.
And I was like that. Wait, no, I'm going to change that.
Okay.
Melancholy. My mom actually would be like, you're my melancholy baby, because sometimes I'd get lost in my head and then I'd be looking out the window like a music video, like, and it'd be raining.
Maybe it was a food coma from the mozzarella sticks.
Probably that, yeah.
I love it. Allie, 3 words for little Allie.
Okay, 3 words for little Allie. Loud. Enthusiastic.
Okay.
And a dreamer.
And a dreamer. Always a dreamer.
Always, always, always. I always had big dreams.
Ah, I love that. Jenna?
I would say confident, courageous, and efficient. I was a gymnast growing up, and I had to go to practice, so I would be the girl like working on homework during lunch just so that I could go to practice and eat ramen noodles for dinner and call it a day.
Yeah. And has that carried over into adulthood?
Oh, I am the most efficient person you will ever meet in your entire life. Don't waste a minute, I'll bill you.
I thought that might be the case. And I want to know what little Tiff was like. Besides really super cute. I mean, come on.
I had really good eyebrows. I did, y'all. I would say I was sullen, creative, bossy.
Talk to me about sullen.
I had like early like sadness in my life around like 8. I can remember that.
Yeah.
But I also, when we talked about this,
Yeah.
had like I just always was creative. I knew like the lighting should be like this. You know, I did my first piece that I choreographed at 13, and I got everyone's outfits together. It was to Britney, Hit Me Baby One More Time.
Hell yeah.
Raise your hand if you also did routines to that. There we go.
And I wanted it to like replicate like the schoolgirl routine.
Yes.
So like I reached out to my friend's sister who went to Catholic school, and I was like, girl, can we borrow your costume, like your skirts? I saved my allowance and bought everyone's tights and things like that. So I was always creative, and I did my lights for my show.
Yeah.
I was like, you know, told, you know, in my elementary school auditorium, so I want green lighting when everyone comes out, and then I'd like pink later, and then, and you know, I'm bossy because it's like, at the time it was bossy, but like now I'm the boss, so
That's
it's like,
right.
it doesn't matter.
Well, the reason I start with the childhood question is because I think in all the work I've done with women around the world, I think we often, as we grow older, can forget that joy and light of who we were as children, even, and I'm happy that you said sullen, because I would say, you know, in my 3 words too, I might have had sad, because I think like part of my life wasn't that it was terrible. It was just that I was connected into the world. I was empathetic. I was looking around at things. I knew at a young age there were things that I wanted to change, but I didn't know how. So I think it's like we're multidimensional people, but what I love to dig into is remembering who we were as a kid, because I think you said this to me yesterday, we're little people in big bodies. Yeah. And so I think just tapping into that can be helpful. So I'm curious, and anybody can jump into this one, what did your childhood teach you and prepare you for where you're at in this life right now?
I remember as a child hearing and feeling no often because people saw my limitations. And, oh, she can't do this sport. She can't come to this event. She can't go to that birthday party. She can't fill in the blank.
Yeah.
And I always say that that was like the most amazing training for my career because I decided to go into the entertainment industry where there aren't a lot of people like me. And so every time I hear no, it's exciting now because either I'm going to decide to prove somebody wrong or I'm going to redirect, get creative, and decide what else I want to do. And as an adult, you know, I think as a kid, at first it was painful because I didn't want to hear no, and I didn't want people to see my limitations. Now I feel so proud for people to see my chair, to see my limitations, because they have made me who I am.
Can we talk about the journey, though, from no to redirecting and doing that? Is there a seminal moment or a moment that you remember that you really got to tackle that fear that I imagine a kid has, or the sadness or the anger or anything you might feel in hearing no, and how you turn that around? Do you have a specific moment?
Yeah, so when I was in college, I got into a musical theater program, and part of it had a really huge dance program. And they didn't want me to take the classes. And so I grew up dancing with my family, dance parties, making up dances. And so to me, I was like, no, I can dance. You just haven't seen my moves. And so it was a moment of realizing that this no is coming from fear. Somebody doesn't understand how I do something. And to be patient. And to go slow and ask, okay, what is the concern? Why are we here? You know, and to work with someone and to educate. And then to have the confidence to roll into that room knowing that they don't want me to take class, and to take the class, and then by the end of the year be taking the full class. So it took time, but I realized with being compassionate and empathetic to their fears and being confident in knowing what I do, I was able to shift that no into an opportunity.
I like hearing the specifics around that, because what I want to avoid are all the platitudes around our success or our achievement and things that we can really break down into practicality. And patience is a huge virtue and value, I think, in this self-discovery work. Lana, I'm curious, in all of the work that you're doing now, to all the boys and the movies that you are creating and the vision that you are creating for new rom-com leading ladies, right? Talk to me about what that journey has been like for you in turning some no's into yeses into your life.
When the pre-read audition came out for the first To All the Boys, I remember I a couple days prior, I was thinking, like, what do I really want to do? Like, what's the next project that I want to do in my career? And I thought, oh, I'd love to be in a romantic comedy, but specifically, I'd like to be the lead. And then very quickly, I kind of wrote that off, unfortunately, because in my head, I was just like, well, I've never seen a lead, I've never seen an Asian American lead a rom-com. I don't see those scripts pass by my inbox at all. And then when I got the pre-read, which is the audition before the audition in film and television, I was shocked because on the log line it said that they're looking to cast an Asian American girl to play the lead, and I was like, oh my God. And I was so disappointed in myself because I was disappointed in myself because I wrote it off so quickly. And I will never do that again. And that's a lesson that I learned. God, the universe was like, no, you be quiet, and sent me a right, and
Why do you think you wanted to write it off?
I don't know. I think, if I'm being honest, I kind of succumbed to, I don't know, I just never seeing it, so thinking that I couldn't be it.
And that it was never going to happen.
And it couldn't happen.
Yeah.
I know way better now, but that's the truth.
Yeah.
Because God knows, like, you can play the leading girl's best friend.
Right.
But I don't know, and so when I saw that audition, I was a huge fan of the books, but immediately when I zeroed in on the fact that the production really wanted to cast an Asian American actress, I was like, this is mine. No one can take that away from me. I will get this part. It's going to happen. I will work so hard, and I know I can do it. And then ever since then, we shot 1, 2, and we also shot the third movie that's coming out later. But all of a sudden, I found myself in the position where people wanted to talk to me about representation, and people wanted to talk to me about what it's like to be an Asian American in Hollywood. And I was like, wait, this is my platform now. I need to, and there was some fear behind it because I don't know, like, there's certain things that I want to sound like, I want to speak well, and I want to, I want to empower people, but I need to do that for myself first before I can tackle the masses. So having that responsibility put on me, I am so grateful now because it's all I want to do is talk about the importance of diversity.
Yes.
In Hollywood and in every other job, people always talk about, what's it like, how hard is it to be a woman in Hollywood? And I'm like, it's tough, but it's hard for all women, not just women, not just actors.
Yes.
But it's been quite the journey, and people ask me, like, well, now are you so stressed that you have this responsibility to talk? And I'm like, not at all. Like, it's really like what I do. It's like I just open my mouth and talk. But
Hence loquacious.
Yeah. But I kind of forget your question now. But I feel like I tried to touch on what I thought your question was.
You did so well.
Okay, cool.
No, because I was going to ask you, I think in some ways I was going to ask you about when you become a role model, whether chosen or volunteered, right? By living your life, by being who you are. And then people see you and you exemplify for them something that they haven't seen before, or they haven't heard before, or they haven't put words behind. I'm just curious what that feels like from a responsibility and accountability level. Because that's also, we've all talked individually about we need to walk our talk and do our own work and our self-work in order to lead and to guide. But I also imagine there's a tremendous accountability and responsibility for young girls who watch this film and can dream themselves into leading ladies, or to think about being on Broadway or running their businesses or breaking barriers and everything they do. Like, I wanted to know if we could dig in a little bit about how you balance responsibility and self-care and self-love.
I feel like it's one of those things that you just have to make sure that you understand that you're not the walking poster child for everything.
Yeah.
That's just not even humanly possible for you to be the person that is going to teach someone's child or adult how they should live their life.
Yep.
I think it really makes just a platform to say, hey, look at all these different women and look at what we've accomplished. We are just like you, but we have different paths, and we have goals and dreams and sadness and all those things. It also comes with this feeling of, and someone in the audience mentioned it before, for me anyway, what's the word? I just made a blank. Like imposter syndrome, where it's just like, like me, you want me to talk about this now? And especially because if you're already living your life like that, it wasn't really a thing. Like, it wasn't really like I got up one day and I said, you know what, I'm gonna go, it just wasn't that. I just was doing things.
Right.
So it's like getting out of your own brain, and that takes a lot of self-care and not getting in your own way. A lot of like whatever you need to do for your self-care, tailoring your stillness to you to make sure that you can get through what you came to do. The other part of it too, I said this to someone who texted me just a minute ago. I was like, I had to stop, thinking about those people and do what I came to do for the people. So if like I'm here now and I'm gonna do it, then I can't think about what anyone else thinks about this. I just have to be like, I'm gonna do it for what feels right in my heart for me, and then I'm gonna share what I can share.
Jenna, you talk so openly. I mean, big part of what you do is open up for authentic conversation and to really bring vulnerability into a space where vulnerability is hard. To be vulnerable online is a tough choice to make, right? And you seem to make it regularly. It's definitely now your brand. But talk to me a little bit about how you evolve into that authenticity yourself and the realness that goes on for you to bring forward your gifts, but also protect your life as you're living it.
I think I've been pondering this question a lot because authenticity means something different to each person, and the level of degree of authenticity that we hold leaders to is not often fair because we're projecting what we believe to be authentic onto other people. And one thing that I've gotten very passionate about this last year is that there are so many facets of my life that are monetized. My business is about making money so that I have the freedom to pursue the passions on my heart. And I feel like a lot of women are apologetic about going out and earning money, but if I wasn't earning money, I wouldn't have the freedom of time to pursue the things that are actually on my heart. And I talk about this a lot because I teach Instagram, and Instagram is a beautiful vessel. It's not the end-all be-all, and I'm actually not that passionate about Instagram. You probably won't even see me be on Instagram today. However, I am passionate about empowering people to have a space to share their stories and to tell it well. And if I didn't have that piece of my business that funded me the opportunity to have the freedom of time, then I wouldn't be able to authentically show up in the way that I do without any ulterior motive or underlying pressure.
Right.
And so when I show up authentically, it's because I have this freedom to really say what matters today and what do I want to talk about today. And I think becoming a mom has totally shifted how I feel about what authentic means, and really reminding myself, like, I don't owe an explanation to anyone about the decisions I make or how I show up, and understanding that, like, the way that I'm doing it is out of pure service to the world, but it's also out of pure passion, which is beautiful.
I love that. You know, I was just sitting here taking it all in and listening to and being present, which is a conversation a lot of us have had today about how do we really stay here. You're hearing so many incredible conversations today and lots of great information coming your way, and how do you stay here? You know, in my history, so I've been an entrepreneur for 25 years. I've actually never technically worked for anybody else, except for I had one job once at a clothing store that's now out of business. And my first day, I spent most of the day in the dressing room talking to women about body image. And so I knew that that was not my ultimate direction, was not in sales of that kind, but in connection. And so, you know, I've helped to launch the Dove campaign for Real Beauty. We helped to change Barbie's body. We're working on this amazing role models platform with Aerie, which for me is the conversation is the cultural change-making moment. And we have so many conversations that are out there in culture, and you are all changing culture by being who you are. And so I'm curious if you could share, you know, maybe we'll start again with Lana. How has being in a romantic comedy, now you're in a three series, right? Or you're going to do the 3-part for this movie. How has it changed your view of love, starring it as a leading lady? Because I think, and Allie, I want to get to this too with you, like I think when you've been told no, that you can't enter into a certain space to be the lead of your own story, not the subject or object of somebody else's, that it plays with your mind a bit. I would imagine that. I've had that same experience. I'm curious if when that door opened for you, and you were the girl being pined after in the film, and you were in that role, like, how does it change your view of love, too, in your own life?
Gosh, that's a great question. Typically I get asked the same questions over and over again. So when there's a new one, I'm like, well.
Excellent.
I think that what I am the most proud of in these movies, but particularly in the third movie when we wrap it all up, is that you get to watch this young girl through simply trial and error grow up, and all of a sudden you see that she's making choices because that's what's best for her heart, and it might not please other people. Gosh, you guys, I can't tell you how many young girls come up to me and they're like, "You picked the wrong guy," and I think,
also have opinions on that.
I know, and I think that's valid, but ultimately I think that Lara Jean picked the person that was right for her heart in the moment. And so I've taken that into my own life. I've taken that into my own life about just knowing the love that I deserve and not settling for anything less.
Yes.
And then just in terms of relationships, I could fall in love with anyone. There's a great line in the book where it's Lara Jean, you practically fall in love with everyone that you meet. And that's very much me, and I've always been that way. But to kind of embrace that further, learning from the movie, and to embrace that further, and just always, give people the benefit of the doubt, and to love them even if you don't know them, because chances are they're pretty dope, So I guess that's kind of what I've learned from the movies and whatnot. But also I think people kind of, because of the movies, I think they think that I'm like a love doctor, like a love Cupid, and they come with
up
me
and ask for advice?
all of the relationship advice, and I'm like, okay, girl, take everything I say with a grain of salt, because I don't want to be a homewrecker. I don't want to ruin your relationship, but this is what I think. But that's kind of what I got from everything.
I love that. Allie, how did it change for you winning the Tony? Did it?
Ooh.
On love, right? Tony's in love. Okay. No.
Or both.
Yeah. Well, I'll rewind 4 years ago. I spent so many years being afraid that I would never find someone who would love all of me. Growing up, I didn't ever read or see any shows about girls in wheelchairs being the center of a love story. That's right. And so I always thought, is it possible? And my friends loved me, my family loved me, they had to love me. And and with finding a partner and finding a love, that's a choice. And I had to wrap my arms and really become in love with myself, which is cliche, but I mean my chair, my body, the way that I am seen in the world, before I think I found real love. And I knew my boyfriend for almost 8 years before we got together, and he walked into my life a week after we opened Spring Awakening, which was when I made my Broadway debut. And, you those moments of how does that work? I get my dream and a boyfriend. And I really believe it was because I had finally arrived in my full purpose, and I really loved what I was doing, and therefore when you arrive there, people fall in love with you. And and so when David and I started seeing each other, and I realized that it was a very different kind of love where, my career was starting to really bloom, and to have somebody supporting me in that changed how I felt about all of it, because for me, my career is nothing without sharing it with someone. And I don't mean just with the public, I mean with my person, with the people who ground me, with the people that see me at my best and my worst. And so I I think that love also comes in very different shapes, and so it's not always in a partner, like a loving, like a romantic thing. And I think as oftentimes as women, we think like we have this picture of what he or she will look like, and for me, it has never been what I thought it was going to be. So I just always say, like, always keep your mind open. You never know how love is going to enter into your life. And also, like, watch out when things begin to really click for you. You will then...
That's exactly right.
Then your love will arrive.
See, I think this is part of the conversation about romantic and self-love and whatever love form you're looking to manifest. But the work that you described doing, the acceptance, the grace and the space in your life to see who you really are. And sometimes I think we're so quick to shortcut to that end result because we sort of thrive on those, on those high moments. But the work and the journey is really, for me, the destination. It's also a weird full circle. I'm just going to play this like degrees of separation because the dad in your movie, John Corbett, Aiden on Sex and the City, I will totally date myself. Also, I didn't get married until I was 40. Met my version of Aiden, although he's Mexican Aiden, and he's in the audience right now. That's my husband, Felipe, who's like a woodworker. But I remember, like, in the same way of finding yourself, I also left a relationship, took a year to do everything I was ever scared of doing. I took pole dancing classes. I was in a rock band called Where's the Exit? And I took a writing class. I did everything that I could to fall back in love with the creative part of me so that I could create a partnership that worked. And so, Jenna, your partnership is like front and center of what you share. But also, you have had experiences where I've seen you dive deep and expose and tackle and take on insecurities that I think would level most people, of people's reactions to this loving, beautiful marriage that you have. And one of the things I greatly admired about you before I met you was how beautifully you spoke in your love and spoke your love to the world. But I want to know a little bit more about that and how you and Drew navigate that.
He's my favorite influencer, by the way.
He's a great,
For
he
sure.
needs to become a dad blogger because he has good content out there, I'm telling you. So we met in freshman year of college, and we've just grown together, and it was so funny because actually before I came here to this trip, we were laying in bed, like pillow talking, and he was like, what time is your flight? And I was like, I don't know, somebody booked it, and there's gonna be a car, and then they're gonna move me, and he was like, pause. Like, look at where we are. Like, did you ever think this? And I was like, no. Like, and it was one of those moments where he has this contentedness about him, and it used to drive me nuts because I am so driven and going and more and more. I want to see what's possible. And he's like, the sun is shining and I mowed the lawn. It's a lovely day. And it used to be so to me like, what more do you want out of this life? And now I'm like, your contentedness is the most grounding piece of my existence. Like, it's so beautiful to be with someone who is just so happy in the moments that they're in that it's like, no, it like pulls me back where it's like, hold on, pause. Did you just hear what you said? And I think too, navigating just stereotypes and norms and like he's just this fit, buff guy, and then I got coined as curvy girl and six-pack dude, and if you Google it, it's like, what? But at the same point too, I'm like, we have done a decade of life together where our bodies are just these meat suits, for lack of better terms, that are walking us through this life together, and my meat suit has looked different at every stage of the game, and yet here is a man who like fully sees me and fully like accepts me, and I think it's just so beautiful because I will clap back until I am blue in the face of the fact that we need to look a certain way to love a certain way. And so it's just been a very beautiful like transformation, and I think coming out of the wedding world and seeing relationships and weddings and doing over 130 weddings as a photographer, I saw so many relationships, and I think if you're listening to this, the one thing that I saw in relationships that last is that the people grow into who they were meant to become, but they grow together. And Drew and I are very different people than the day that we stood at the altar and said I do and made all of these promises that are so hard to keep, but we try. but we're different people who have just continued to fall in love with each other at every stage of the game. And I think that's the difference between a successful relationship and not.
I do too. Love that. That deserves some applause.
Thank you.
Okay, Miss Tiff, yesterday we had a good conversation about manifesting. Love. Yeah, we did. But you said something yesterday that I wanted to bring into this room today, because Tiff did an episode of this show with me yesterday, but you said a phrase that I cannot get out of my mind, which was, what we don't complete, we will repeat. So will you talk about that a little bit, from patterns and things that we fall into over and over again, and how we develop that grace and compassion?
Yeah, love or life?
You know, if you want to talk about love, do love, life. I just love that phrase about, because I also think if somebody's sitting here thinking about their patterns in relationships that they keep repeating and they don't know why, I just thought it was a great mantra to think about. What we don't complete, we will repeat.
Yeah. For me, with love, like, I'm single, and I've been single by choice for 4.5 years. And I mean, I also, and choice is different for everyone, but I chose to practice abstinence because I was kind of like dating the same person with a different face. And I understood, well, when someone leaves, I'm the common denominator. So I didn't want to look at it like, oh, well, maybe it's me and I need to fix myself. I really don't think people need to like fix or change. I think we need to uncover our truths. And I had to like dig deep into like, what's my truth around my relationship with men? What am I looking for? What do I want? And I mean, it was always the same thing. Like, I want him to be 6'2". I want him to look like The Rock. I want like, like just all these things. And then it was like, once I just took this time doing a lot of the things that you're saying, like falling back in love with myself, but even before that, like just like, where's my self-acceptance? Because people tell us to love ourselves, but like if you don't accept yourself, you can't even like yourself, then to love yourself. So like for me, it was like, where would I go with that? My manifestation now is like knowing that I am in a place where I'm so ready to get the love I deserve from everybody around me, whether it's my family, whether it's my friends, whether it's the people that, I work with, and from myself. And then, what do I really want? And what am I completing so I don't repeat? All right, for me, it's like emotional intelligence. Becoming very emotionally intelligent with myself. Being okay with like my path right now is very deeply rooted in self-awareness and being free. Like, I even, like, my barber, she's like, what do you want on your head today? And I was like, oh, just put, like, hearts on my, on the back because I'm trying to keep my heart open. Like, little things that it seems weird, but it's just reminders because I need that, because I want to complete something so I do not repeat it again. And, I mean, I just take that manifestation into my life as well, and it's practice every day. But, like, I made sure, like, my intent list was different. And for love, I have... I emailed myself the kind of partner I wanted.
Yeah, you did.
I did, and like the first 15 things had nothing to do with his looks. So what you said about like staying open because it doesn't come in the package, it doesn't. It never does. None of my work, my friendships, it's ever been in the package.
I like that it leaves space for the mystical and the magical to come in a lot of ways.
Shout out to Bumble, our sponsor, by the way. Because I'm out here. So let me know it's good.
Nicely done. Nice. So smooth. So smooth. I wanted to transition a little bit into dreams. Some of that we've had this conversation about prior as well. But I want to talk about the breaking up of a dream. Like, if you've ever had to break up with a dream. I think all of us, when I think about our childhood dreams and the things that we sort of set out to imagine, sometimes childhood dreams become adult realities. And it doesn't mean that you failed at it or they fade away and something new comes in. And I'm just curious, Allie, have you ever had to break up with a dream and create a new one or a different one? And what was that like?
No.
Tell us about that.
I was so clear at a young age. So I was hurt when I was 2 in a car accident, and from 2 to 7, I experienced a lot of trauma, and when I found theater, it was really when I began to live my life, because before that, the identity of being a little girl in a wheelchair and being awed at was just way too much. It was not what I was here for. I'm not here on this planet for people to feel sorry for me. And so when I got on stage, all of a sudden, people were looking at me for the reasons that I wanted, and I felt really powerful. And it was like I was able to flip the entire thing, and I was in command. And so, so from when I was 7, I wanted to be on Broadway, and I did everything I could to arrive there. And I didn't know when I was going to arrive there. I never was like, by 18, I must. But I was like, I don't know how.
Okay.
I don't know when, but I will.
And did it ever waver for you?
Never.
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 And do you have a team, like an esteemed team or like go-to people that hold that vision with you?
My parents.
Yeah.
Because when I was little, I started to sing, and they were like, uh-oh, we've got something on our hands. She has a gift, and so how are we going to help her? And there was a huge list of things that I could not do. So they decided to put all of their energy into this thing that I could do. And so that's why I say, like, my chair has been such a gift. It's like literally cleared the way for this thing that I can do, that I love, that no one else is doing or has done before, but I do it.
So then for a little girl who knew where your space and place was, and you could feel it and dream it and work towards it, what did it feel like to win an award that for most performers is a pinnacle in career? Like, what did it feel like?
It felt like I was arriving at the top of the mountain, that I had worked my butt off for 32 years to arrive here. Every moment, every no, every traumatic experience, my car accident, being stared at, all of those moments brought me right there. And for me, I never set out to win an award, because awards for me are a little bit different. My dad's a coach, and so I got awards for everything. We got medals for, like, great job today, Allie. You pushed up the ramp. I mean, it was trophies, awards, constantly. So I never, set out to win more awards because I had plenty. But when I won the Tony, what was really powerful was to be seen by my community, and for them to acknowledge and say, yes, Allie, what you're doing rocks. We're behind you now. Because for so long, I went through wanting to prove myself. And so I think when you're talking about, breaking up with dreams, I think what right now is very vulnerable for me is that I've achieved a dream. Now what? So now it's like, oh my God, I got to go back to the dream catcher and figure out what this new thing looks like. So it's not really breaking up, but it's like, okay, I've achieved it. Oh gosh, what now?
Okay,
so,
that's an amazing segue for this panel in particular. Everybody on this stage has accomplished something incredible. So Lana, when your dreams come true, how does that affect you?
When my dreams come true, I think about that often too. I'm like, what next? Gosh, what's next? But every day I wake up with the fact that the possibilities in my life are endless, and I hold on to that. But it's weird, when it happens, you're kind of like, wait, what? It's been such a part of my identity for so long that I must do this, and then all of a sudden I have it, and then what crutch do I have to hold on to anymore? Because I've just I don't know. What I know in my career is I want to continue to tell colorful, diverse, specific stories. That's what I know. I don't know what story, I don't know what script, I don't know anything. All I know is I have a deep desire to continue to tell diverse stories. But I completely understand, because it's a weird thing.
Well, we talked about this yesterday, Tiff. We get addicted to the struggle a lot. We kind of tell ourselves the story of like, we don't quite get there, we don't quite get there, we don't. But then when we get there, I love that you took a moment. First of all, I love that you took a pause when I asked you that question. And you said, I worked really hard to get here. Because I think, and I'm going to stereotype this a bit, I think women tend to dismiss how hard we work for those things. And we certainly live in a world that dismisses women's work quite often. So it's hard at times, right, to kind of acknowledge that you did work to get here. Maybe you don't have to be addicted to the struggle all the time or the story about the struggle.
I think that that's something that even for me, like with, you know, accomplishing things, I just really, when I accomplished them, all the things I've accomplished really did show me again, are you happy? Because now you're getting things, and I don't know if you're really happy. So I had to really look and just see what makes me happy, and being open to what's next. I don't really know what's next. I know what's now. What's now is I'm sitting on this panel. I'm looking at everybody. This is really dope. Like I have, like, obviously I have a plan, but you know, if the plan deviates, I gotta flow with that plan. And you can't just keep identifying by, you know, the struggle or the accolade, or you have to be leveled because life does this. So you just have to like find that thing.
Yes.
Can I add one thing? Just because this is such a unique experience for me today, I see so many mirrors of women in wheelchairs here today, which is so moving for me. And one of the things that I want to acknowledge is that with a disability, there is, I don't know if this speaks to anybody, but I want to say it. There is a real acknowledgement of working hard and pushing and the physical tasks around it. To me, it's not acknowledging how hard I worked, it's being proud. Because people are proud of me for existing, which is hard sometimes, because you're like, wait a minute, no. But for me to take moments by myself to say, Allie, to look in the mirror or to like take myself on a trip and be like, Allie, you did this. You can be proud of what you did. That to me is so specific to my specific experience of having a physical disability. So I just wanted to say that.
Thank you for saying that. No, thank you for adding that into this conversation. We're so many things, often all at the same time, and changing our narrative when we want to, when we change. And one of the things, Jenna, that I really appreciate about what you put out into the world is you seem to be designing La Buena Vida, the good life as it relates to you. Right, and what you want. Can you talk a little bit about how you've navigated from your losses to your gains and how you continue to redefine and pivot maybe some of what you thought you'd be happy getting and then what doors open?
Yeah, it was funny when you guys were talking because I'm like, oh, my perspective is so different because I feel like I've constantly, my dreams have just kind of evolved as my life has evolved. And there's been moments where I'm like, I thought this would have felt different than it does. Like I remember my first 6 figures and then your first 7 figures and you're sitting there and you're like, this is supposed to feel like something, but like I'm still in the shower using Pantene Pro V, like nothing has changed. And I think what's been so beautiful about the evolution of the way that I've designed my life is that it's my definition of success. And over the last year, I've actually spent a lot of time at tables with a lot of very successful men. And I see these things come out of them where it's ego, and they're lacking intuition, and they're lacking like fulfillment, and there's this posture. And it's like, I don't need any of those things. Like, I want to have freedom. The reason why I work so hard is to have freedom. And when I was able to figure that out, and that it's a feeling and not a thing, everything shifted. Does this decision give me freedom? When I wake up to do this thing today, do I feel excited about it? Am I saying yes out of passion or out of profit? What do these decisions look like when manifested? And I think one of the most beautiful things that I did was give myself the time to figure that out. And I always say the phrase, time is our currency. And I think that there have been so many examples today where time truly is the way that we spend our lives. And when I finally became a mom after trying and figuring it out, I'm like, all I want is freedom of time. And I want to be able to choose how I spend each day, knowing that where my time is going is the best place for it, whether it's work or mothering. I want to be all in on everything in that moment. I don't want to be working and thinking about my baby, and I don't want to be with my baby thinking about work, and how can I like figure out what that freedom to be all of the versions and the iterations and the evolutions of myself, and the only way to do that is through time. And so when you guys talk about all these things, sometimes I'm like, I feel goal-less in the sense that I don't have this list of achievements anymore, because frankly, I know I can do anything. But I have this feeling that I cling to and ask myself about every single day, every single moment, do I feel free right now? And that's like the pinnacle of every decision I make.
Yes, that's powerful.
Oh, can I just say something
Yes,
about like
please.
making decisions really
Yes.
quick? I had one of the best pieces of advice I've ever gotten when it comes to like, where am I going to put my time? Like, how am I going to compartmentalize my time, and where am I going to put it? My friend said to me, is it easy, is it fun, and is it worth it? And if it's not one of those three things or all of them, then just don't put your time there. You know, and that changed so much for me, because I was so used to just saying, yes, 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 I'll do that. Yes, I'll do this. Yes, 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 yes. And then I was miserable.
Right.
Like there was a point where I like had spread myself so thin that I literally couldn't get off the couch. Like I couldn't speak, like I couldn't eat, like
Right.
I was like nothing.
Yes.
And my friend said, when you decide the things that you're going to sign on to, is it easy, is it fun, or is it worth it? And I was like, oh dang. And that's just like to your point, like that's.
Well, it is. It's so incredibly powerful in the world that we live in today. We're fairly performative now because we're able to, with our technology, to kind of zoom in, which can be quite connecting and incredible, and also quite isolating. Because we're constantly performing for an audience we never see, people we haven't met, and ideals that we may not even share. And actually, the impetus for doing something called We're All Gonna Die Anyway is actually not as morbid as it sounds, because it actually lights me up for living. And it reminds me that we have to have alignment with what we want to do, and that we can have the patience and the pride in the work that we're creating, but also that it is really urgent to live the life that we want to live and to create that as we go. And so I guess, before we go to questions in the audience, I'm curious about what right now in your life feels urgent and exciting for you. Tiff, do you want to start? I'll go the opposite way.
Yeah, right now in my life, what feels urgent is for me to have like ample amounts of forgiveness and compassion for like lots of things, whether it's, someone, if I'm in a car and they cut us off, it's like, oh, okay, well, I don't know what's going on there, but I'm safe. Or if it's, I remember when this person did this thing to me and it caused me all this trauma, but I live my life now for me. And like making sure that that's like urgent for me to know that like I have that control of just like where I put my energy. Like Iskra calls it her TIFF protection plan. Like I'm always like, protect my energy. Make sure also I'm not the one giving off that energy that needs to be protected from. And it's also urgent and exciting for me to be open. I've never been, I feel like in my adult life, this open.
Really? What does it feel like?
It feels like my throat chakra is just alive. Woo. It feels like I can breathe. It feels like home. So that for me is just like exciting.
And then when you are feeling like that, you give people permission, or people get permission because they're feeling that too.
Yeah.
Right? Are you feeling that listening to this conversation? Gives you permission to be where you are. I know. I just want to breathe for a minute.
It makes it good. It's not that everything's perfect. It's just that I'm just happy to be here. From a time when like being younger, when I wasn't happy to be here.
Yeah.
And it was just like trying to navigate what that means.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Beautiful.
I have to laugh at this question because once again, it's opposite day with Jenna Kutcher. Nothing is urgent, guys. Nothing. I tell my team that. I have a team of women. They're mostly moms who have been through things, and my greatest joy is telling them that nothing is urgent because I think we're so connected. We're so always looking for tasks that need to be done and completed, and our emails are taking our focus off of where we are in the moment. And so we have so many boundaries within my business of like, you cannot text me, and you need to ask for permission to reach out beyond this internet space. And it's not out of pride, it's out of protection of time. And so what I love is that with that question, I'm like, nothing is urgent. But I think if we flipped the script, being present is the urgent matter, and lifting our eyes is the urgent matter, and like actually being here is the urgent matter. And so I think that urgency in my life is like watching this child grow before my eyes, and it's like you blink and it's like there's this feeling of like everything is always changing, everything is always changing. So like how can I just be here and present while we change?
Beautiful.
That.
Mic drop.
That. No, but I'll add.
Please.
For me, what's urgent is my health and my self-care.
Yeah.
It's so hard for me. I just want to go, keep working, never say no. And I can't do that without my health.
That's right.
So, and I don't want to prioritize my health only when it's bad.
Yes.
And that's a pattern for me.
Yes.
That I'll deal with it when things get bad.
Right.
But what I'm learning now at 32, because I also have a hard relationship with my health. It hasn't always felt like something that's fun or exciting. It's like something that I haven't really wanted to deal with at times, because it feels like such a huge part of my life. And so how can I change that narrative for myself? How do I change this story on taking care of myself? How can I make it fun? How can I make it enjoyable? How can I prioritize it? Where does it fit in the day? Do I have time? Of course I have time.
Right.
But that is, I say all of it trying to even hold myself accountable. Allie, you said it on a podcast. You have to do this. You have to do this. So that to me is urgent.
I love the idea of also not waiting, which is ideal, that until it's too late, but being proactive about it. But you're also prioritizing your health and well-being, right, Lana?
Yes, I did tell you this, yes. To what you all are saying, which is everything that I'm thinking, is like, my urgency is to, one, I am watching Scandal, the TV show, for the first time. So my true urgency is to finish the show. Like, I need to know if Olivia Pope and Fitz gets, like, I need
you to finish the show so we can talk about that.
I need to know. Like, this is my true urgency. Like, I have to know. But, like, also, is she gonna become president? I need to know these things. So I feel very passionate, obviously, about that. But in stillness, like, my focus right now is to be still. My focus right now is to enjoy and be present in moments, and to work on my physical and mental health, because I do the same thing where I'm like, I'll prioritize it when I'm in the hospital. Like with the flu and I can't breathe. That's when and then I'm like, but what? How did I get here? Seriously, really?
Yeah.
And I wanna focus on, like, my mental health. Like, I wanna focus on where my anxiety comes from, and where my fear and my happiness and everything in between. I just feel like I really need to be still. I need to focus in and figure out what's going on in my body and in my mind. And
I love that we're having more conversations now than ever before about mental wellness and prioritizing that. We live in the most connected culture that we've ever had. We also live in the most anxious, depressed, and fear-based culture that we've ever had. A lot of us live in that rise and grind, despair and compare online, a lot of things. I, too, again, started these series of conversations because I hit a brick wall going 1,000 miles an hour in all of my success. So it looked great from the outside. But on the inside, it didn't feel very good, and it wasn't sustainable. And much like you were saying, Tiff, for me, I craved the community and connection that often we don't get when we run so fast and pretend and put on and kind of do all the performative things that we do. So my urgency is doing exactly what we did today, which was listen deeply, love a little more, learn about ourselves, and have these kind of connective conversations that I hope then trickle out into your lives, and you figure out where this lands for you and where you take this forward. So thank you for being so vulnerable and honest and you on this stage, because, and this is the house that Aerie builds. They build this incredible opportunity to have these conversations. So now I want to be able to turn it over to you for a couple of minutes. Questions for this incredible panel. I think we have roving mics right here in the second row. Wonderful.
Hi, I'm Aaliyah.
Aaliyah.
Hi. And I've been on like this journey of self-love for like many years now, and it's something that I'm working on. And so I guess one of my questions is like, how do you maintain like that self-love and like that relationship with yourself and like confidence that carries you through your life? Because it's been like up and down for me, and like right now I feel like I'm at like a really good point, but like sometimes other factors like affect that. So yeah.
I have thought, oh, sorry, Tiff. I was gonna say, I think one of the narratives that Aerie is trying to bust, and I think I am fully in support of it, is that self-love is not a destination. It is a daily decision. And I think a lot of times when people become advocates for self-love, we're held to this standard that we can't have negative self-talk, or that we can't question how our body appears in certain ways, or certain lighting, or things like that. And I think what true leadership is showing up before you're ready, before you've figured it out, and in that messy middle is where the real inspiration shows up. And so none of us have mastered that, but it's these daily and micro choices. I told Allie, as she sang on the stage today, she made eye contact with me, I'm like bawling, and I was like, there was this thought in my head as you were singing with such conviction. There's this thought in my head that said, I could never do that. How many of you guys thought that? Like, look at her go, I could never do that. And then all of a sudden, I like heard that dialogue in my head, and I said, no, you do that in your own way through your own mediums. The vehicles that we use, whether it's our events or podcasts or movies or Broadway, are the ways that we continue to just make these decisions. And a lot of times we're the visible decisions, but there are so many decisions happening in these micro moments that you'll never see. So it's not a destination. There will be highs and lows, but every day you're given this chance to redirect those thoughts and to course correct and to hear those thoughts and acknowledge them and then just let them go. And so I feel like micro decisions just continue to like build up until you start to say, these aren't big arms, these are strong arms. These aren't big thighs, these are thighs that have carried me through this. And it's like you can still have those thoughts, but it's the actual narrative as you shift them that makes you feel what you're thinking.
Amen.
I haven't gotten out of my house in a while. I don't know if anyone can tell. My
happy to benefit from
14-month
that.
daughter does not like these spiels like you guys do, so thank you.
Other questions over here? Excellent. I don't want to neglect this group over here, so let me know.
Hi, I'm Sammy. For Lana, I just want to thank you so much for your comments about diversity and for Asian representation.
Thank you.
And since we have such a diverse group of ladies, successful ladies on the panel, I just want to ask you guys, how do you deal with any like pressures regarding like reputation, since you guys have so many titles underneath you? So do you feel like I need to top of whatever you've done before?
To top your titles, to keep going, like the pressure that we might
Yes,
feel?
like any pressures.
Yeah, where does that pressure come from?
I mean, I think it was what we were talking about earlier about just like, you know, the what's next and like how we find the groundedness in that. There's a lyric that says, I never let a statue tell me how nice I am, by a rapper named Phife Dawg from old hip hop group. And it literally is like, I can't let, you know, the accolades tell me how dope I am. I have to know that, like, at the core, I'm just enough. So the reputation, I mean, nobody stays on top all the time. You know what I'm saying? Like, look at artists, music artists. Like, they put out an album. You're talking about that album for, it used to be, like, you know, a year or two. Now it's just, like, it's for 2 minutes. And then it's the next album and the next thing. Like, we live in this world where things are moving swiftly. So you can't worry about, like, that part of it, you know? You just have to do what you said, what feels right, the time, what you like, what your purpose is, you know?
I was gonna say, I've been thinking about this a lot because I feel like I've pressed pause in my life in a beautiful way. Like, I'm obviously still showing up and doing things, but I took the pressure off of a lot of it, and it was because I finally felt fully confident that I'll figure it out when I'm ready. Instead of constantly trying to push for more and more and more, and like more money, more accolades, more awards, I'm like, it's okay to press pause right now and not top the person I once was, because I am not her, but I am smart enough to figure out who the next iteration of myself will be.
I love that. I teach college, and one of the questions that I get asked a lot about reputation and my brand, right, because we're all using the word brand these days to describe who we are, is for me, like, reputation and how people see you is one part of the equation, right? But every day, the way that you act, the way you engage, the way you speak to others, people are watching, listening, absorbing. And here's the thing, people will not like you. They just won't. And how they feel about you ultimately is none of your business, right? Yeah. So for me, reputation, I kind of am trying to face inward, because we'll never fulfill all of the outside desires about titles and do you like me and is my brand okay. It's more about, like, who are you being? How are you treating other people? Mostly, how are you treating yourself? And that kind of, I think, sort of taking track of that can be really helpful and powerful versus sort of comparing to other people or working for other people's things. We've got time for one more question. Yeah? Or I don't know where my mics are. Okay.
Hi, my name's Rebecca. So I had a question about, we're all talking about how there's power in ourselves and there's power in us and we need to believe in ourselves, but I don't think that, like, sometimes we need to ask for help, right?
Yes.
Or feedback or somebody else's opinion. And I am someone who has a really hard time doing that and doing that gracefully and taking it gracefully. So if any of you have any advice on that, I would really, really appreciate it. And thank you all for being here.
Thank you for that
I would
question.
literally say, because we talked about this yesterday, I am the queen of, like, do it yourself. I'm not asking nobody for help. I literally
I'm pushing back on her. Tiffany, get help.
Jenna met me the first day she met me and goes, what do you need? And I was like, I just need a lot of help. And she's like, well, you have to ask. Do you want my help? And I was like, no, I think I'll be okay. And then, like, now I'm, like, texting her, like, so I need help. You have to, it's going to feel uncomfortable, Rebecca. If you are a woman that is used to going, I've got it, it's okay, no one needs to know, I will figure it out, no, I'm good, it's going to feel hella uncomfortable when you ask for help.
Yep.
And every time you feel uncomfortable, a part of Rebecca just grew a little bit more.
Yes.
And you will go back and forth with it. You will go, I'm asking for help today. I got some help. This didn't feel that bad. The next time you ask, you'll probably feel triggered. And then you'll be like, I'm never asking for help again. Like, it's just what it is. It's like going even back to what Leah said. It's not linear. It's just up and down. Just ask. Even the exercise we did earlier, if you want to, like, write down one simple thing you want to ask for help, and then I would write down 2 people you trust that you could ask for.
Yes.
Even if it's something simple as, could you pick me up some almond milk from the store? Just because you have to practice doing that.
Yeah.
Because it's going to feel really tight. It's going to feel like another suit and like a jacket that you just don't wear anymore. You have to just be uncomfortable and do it.
Yeah, I have a long relationship with asking for help. And one of the things that I have learned when sometimes it's too much to accept help again and again and again is that I'm giving someone else an opportunity to give me something, to offer advice. And that makes someone feel really good. So in your asking for help, you are giving as well. So sometimes flipping that is helpful if, you're just like, I feel like I'm being stung by bees. This is awful. Okay, this one is for the cab driver. He's helping me get inside the cab, and I don't want his help.
Yeah.
However, he's getting a chance to help a pretty girl into a cab.
Right. I love it. I love the question Jenna asked as well. How, what do you need? I think we all need to check on our strong friends these days as well.
All the time.
The best question you can ask someone is, how can I show up for you in this season? Because I think when you ask them that, it gives them the ability to voice, like, I need persistence, I need quiet, I need a safe space, I need to be questioned, I need accountability. And so it's like whenever someone's going through anything, it's just, I always go to, how can I best show up for you in this season? And I think it's a beautiful way to not emit what you think people need, but to give them the opportunity to say what they actually need.
Jenna does that. Jenna does
I
that.
know she does.
She asked me that. I ask her and I ask all my friends, how's your spirit doing? It's okay to ask somebody that. Not like how you're doing, what are you doing? How's your spirit doing? And Jenna and I also ask each other, what can I pray for you about like this week or this month?
I love that. Thank you for showing up. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Amazing. We're going to take...
Thank you, Jess.
Sir, you're welcome.